Yo, what's good? It's a boy Dude Reviews and heavy spoilers for My Hero Academia Season 7 Episode 13, also known as Episode 151, You Have Been Warned. This episode has adapted 3 chapters, Chapter 367, Chapter 368, and Chapter 369. The episode starts off with Izuku Midoriya, also known as Deku, flying towards where the main battle is with Shigaraki and the gang. We have an anime original scene of the first All For One user talking about how All For One has his quirks increasing. We then cut to one of the members of Stars and Stripes' team. They talk about the main reason why they stayed in Japan is because their leader Cassie bet on the UA class and Japan's heroes to do the job and to try and take out Shigaraki. And I like how these guys who don't really know the Japanese heroes have this strong faith in these guys, which I think is a beautiful way to honor the late Stars and Stripes. As Deku arrives on the main battlefield, he is in absolute shock as he sees Bakugo and the rest of the heroes lying down on the ground, looking battered and bruised on death's door. I must admit I did prefer the manga panel of this shot. The feeling of despair was more emphasized in the manga panel, but Deku's expressions have been pretty damn faithfully drawn, if not improved over the manga panels. But what is with this angle of Bakugo lying on the ground? I think I preferred the one in the manga panel. It looked a little bit more distressing, and I do like how the manga panel highlights that Bakugo had the autograph picture that he wanted All Might to sign, making this scene even more sad in the manga. I also much prefer the way Deku's face is in the middle of the frame as we see the rest of the heroes lying on the ground. It just made the scene more eerie in my opinion. Shigaraki then tries to berate Deku and to try and make him feel guilty over him coming late to the battlefield, as he knows that Deku, when he gets angry and emotional, is incredibly sloppy when he fights. I love the detail and the rawness in the anime version, capturing the spirit of the manga panels exceptionally well, and the rage Deku scenes look absolutely astonishing. I really love these scenes of Mirio trying to calm down Deku. In the previous episode, he felt defeated. He felt like he didn't matter. He felt like he was a failure, but still he had to do what he had to do. And this episode, he's even doing more than what is expected of him. But of course, that does not make the Shigaraki / All For One monster any happier. The dude looks like a demon in these 2 panels. Deku, he recalls a memory of him and All Might, as well as that one dude on Cassie's team. Deku isn't the only one risking his life to try and save the day. Everyone is doing it too. One of the One For All users talks about how anger is a source of power, but Deku needs to learn to control it by controlling his heart. All this wisdom that Deku is getting calms him down, and the first thing on his mind is telling All For One / Shigaraki if the real Shigaraki is still in there, while all the previous One For All users are standing behind him. This looks pretty bad art in both anime and manga. This is where the chapter 367 comes to an end, and we enter chapter 368. The new manifestation of Shigaraki and All For One talks about how Shigaraki is no longer in here. Both All For One and Shigaraki have fused together into one being. You see this really terrifying yet really sad shot of baby Shigaraki being pushed down by All For One, showing us that even though Shigaraki and All For One are on the same team, Shigaraki is absolutely not having it with All For One. He wants to be in control and hates the fact that All For One has taken over his body. I love how the anime drew this full frame of Deku staring down the manifestation of All For One and Shigaraki. Mirio talks to Deku about how when he made a comment about him, he started spazzing out and saying that he does have friends, and it looked like the young Shigaraki was still in there. The 7th user of One For All also confirms this and tells Deku that Shigaraki is still there. This shot of what looks like the original Shigaraki fused onto the arms of this manifestation creature looks beautifully drawn, but really creepy, dude. It looks like the Shigaraki / All For One creature has sensed that Shigaraki's grandmother is inside Deku and doesn't care about her and wants to take his little brother back. I think at this moment it's really All For One speaking, as he refers to Deku as his little brother. The two of them clash for the first time in a long time, and our brave Deku boy vowing to never allow All For One's ideas become reality. Deku then uses black chain on the Shigaraki All For One creature, and I must admit, I prefer the manga panel. I do feel like there is more energy and intensity drawn in this panel alone than the anime version, but the anime does make up for it for some beautifully drawn shots of Shigaraki / All For One, the second user, then warns Deku that once he uses his new technique against All For One, it's over. He needs to defeat him here and now, and he only has 5 minutes, but in anime time, that's really about 20 minutes for us. I did love this standoff frame of Shigaraki / All For One and Deku. Something about the way it's framed looks incredibly cinematic, preparing us for a series of amazingly cinematic action animation sequences. Second transmission is activated and Izuku Midoriya awakens that Monkey D. Luffy inside of him, awakens second, third, and top gear. And I love how comic book-esque these frames are in the anime. I'm not a JoJo fan, but these scenes do remind me of some of those earlier episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure when the colors would just randomly change, or a Spider-Verse film, a perfect example of how the anime was able to elevate the manga. But in order to stretch this episode out to perfectly match the 22-minute time, they have to of course include more flashback scenes, which didn't actually appear in the manga. The manga just got straight into the action. Around the time when Deku uses Overdrive, the anime rearranges the order of the manga slightly. After Overdrive, we have a cut of the first One For All user talking to his brother All For One, saying that today will be the day that we end this all. And then it cuts to the Detroit Smash panel, which was absolutely beautifully drawn by Horikoshi sensei. But in the anime, the scene where it talks about how Deku is using 120 out of 100%, the manga panel was blank, but the anime included an anime original scene of this beautiful Sakuga-like animation of Deku charging towards Shigaraki / All For One. You'd think Studio Mappa made this scene. We then cut to chapter 369 in the manga panel, where we see All For One crying to the second user. This scene startled me a little bit when I first watched it. Why is he crying? How is All For One, who he says is the most powerful being in the universe, crying? All For One seems to be talking down to this guy a lot while this guy is smiling at him, but All For One is crying while looking at him, at the same time calling the second user a little beetle. I just really want to know what the dynamic is between these two and what made All For One so upset. All For One then for the very first time is able to see the previous user through Izuku Midoriya. That was when I was like, mate. All For One's actor is doing an incredible job. They slightly changed the order of this one shot of Deku flying down, looking really badass. When activating quirk gear shift, we get a pretty damn lengthy explanation of the gear shift quirk. The anime did enhance this scene by showing us interestingly new scenes and frames. Instead of this blank frame from the manga panel, the animators at Studio Bones did a phenomenal job with this one scene of Detroit Smash. And one thing to point out, that one beautifully animated sequence of Deku using Detroit Smash was animated by animator Kohei Hirota. Massive praise to him and massive thanks for making a beautifully animated scene. I do love the colors used in the Detroit Smash quintuple. I did find it funny how All For One / Shigaraki was so cocky in this moment, thinking that he could predict Deku's movements, but couldn't because Deku was using the gear shift quirk. I think this is without a doubt the coolest power that Deku has unlocked. The exposition of Deku trying to use smokescreen to restrict the view of All For One and try to get near him and take him out was better explained and executed in the anime version. I feel like the manga version was a little bit chaotic the way it was laid out and drawn. I love the scene of Deku having the power of all the previous users of One For All behind him in this panel. Deku's final punch as he tells All For One that he does not want him to hurt any more people was animated beautifully. In the manga there were about 2 or 3 panels of this, but the anime had multiple scenes and angles of the two of them clashing and colliding together, and so much colors, effects and beautifully drawn art had enhanced the manga panels. The first user of One For All can see his brother inside the body of Shigaraki. He talks about how Mirio was right, how everything that All For One had been doing up until this point has been shaking the balance of their union. You see All For One looking like he's in pain, trying to be one with Shigaraki but failing, and it puts a big smile on my face seeing All For One's plans go out the window because this dude is a bad boy. Deku is finally in the moment of truth. He remembers what Shimura said to him. Can Deku kill Shigaraki. We then cut to All For One talking about he hasn't been able to show the true power of this body yet. At first, All For One does seem quite annoyed by him not being able to do what needs to be done, but it does seem like he still has an ace up his sleeve, talking about how he hasn't lost just yet. He still has one more trick up his sleeve, and we cut to Spinner looking like a demon. Had no idea he had this type of power, but that is the end of the comparison. This episode was a masterpiece in art and animation. While some panels in the manga were drawn better than the anime, overall the anime, it has gone above and beyond adapting the manga, and for that I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10 and an A star for adaptation. Tell me in the comments down below, what did you guys think of this episode? Did you like it or did you hate it? Tell me. Like this video, subscribe for more anime reactions, reviews, comparisons, breakdowns, rankings and more. But thank you for watching, and as always, a boy do the view, signing out.